This is Steve Elliott with Brian Connor with today's VIP briefing. Brian, you're looking very patriotic today.
Yes, I've decided to take a step up for the background compared to last time. This is still, we're in process. We're trying to set up a command center, mission control for these VIP video updates. So baby steps, Steve.
We're
Steps.
getting there.
Yeah.
So today we're gonna look at the debt ceiling showdown, the border crisis, which is getting more and more out of control. This funny thing called a proxy war, and then we'll talk about maybe someone is catching Rush Limbaugh's mantle as we speak. Brian, let's get right to the debt ceiling showdown. Fascinating stuff going on.
Well, I tell you, Kevin McCarthy has been a pleasant surprise as Speaker of the House because back in January, you'll remember they had the speaker vote and it went on and on and on. And but the House passed 100 days under Republican leadership, and they've just been passing, strong America First legislation, bill after bill. And now McCarthy is fighting the fight for the debt ceiling, but to get spending under control, because as you know, Steve, Grassfire loves limited government.
Yes,
and
we do.
This new plan is one that, I'm sure it's not going to make everybody happy, but one of the things that made me happy was that I read a headline, and it's in the Liberty News update, the VIP update from Liberty News, that says that it defunds a bunch of the Biden agenda, including the 87,000 IRS agents.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And the things so just so everyone understands, the debt limit, the Congress must establish how much the federal government can borrow. So that's a fixed limit that Congress will increase because we don't want to default on our loans. But what it does is it gives conservatives in Congress an opportunity to make a deal and say, here's the things that we want to have happen to start to limit and control some of that spending. As you mentioned, getting rid of the 86,000 new IRS agents, limiting budget growth to 1% per year for 10 years, cutting wasteful spending, rescinding unspent COVID money, getting rid of the crazy Joe Biden student loan forgiveness thing, which would cost, I don't know, $300 billion or something crazy like that.
Repealing depends on who you talk to.
Say again?
It depends on who you talk to.
Yes, it
does.
Which
side of the fence you're on has a different number for you.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant number, though, as we know. And then repealing the green tax credits. There's something in there that I love. It's called regulations from the executive in need of scrutiny. I wonder who the executive in need of scrutiny is. The REINS Act. I think they're trying to rein in Joe Biden specifically.
Yeah, you got to pull back the reins to slow down spending because
actually, it's really a good thing that that McCarthy's doing, and he's structuring it so that basically this will give us another year, and they'll have to pass another debt ceiling. Now, why do you want to go through this again? Because he wants to force it to be an issue this year and an issue during the election year. So he wants to force attention on the issue of government growth and government spending. And I think it's actually extremely good, Brian, that we're seeing this happen. And it's a very important debate that's going to be coming up really quickly. I think even as soon as next week. And we have Rick Scott had some things to say. I wanted to make sure that we got this in there for our team.
The numbers on all of this and the plan that Republicans put out, and Biden not wanting to really deal with any of it.
Well, first off, thank God for House Republicans. I mean, they're putting out their ideas. We've got to get structural reform to get this spending under control. We've got to get our economy going. We need to claw back this wasteful government spending, and we got to get people back to work. Pretty basic stuff.
Brian, what I wanted everyone to actually hear was one line in that, Brian. Thank God for House Republicans.
Absolutely.
And actually, more specifically, as you talked about just a few minutes ago, thank God for the Freedom Caucus, who stood on the wall in January and insisted on a real path for real reform and real conservative agenda in Congress in exchange for their support for Speaker McCarthy. They were
relentless.
Yes, they were. Everyone went after them. They went after these guys like crazy. They were the enemies of true democracy. And yet those people, the Freedom Caucus, are the reason why we're having this debate today.
Yeah, and they were like, the Republican Party is disintegrating on itself. You know, it'll never come back from this. All these votes, it's embarrassing. Well, you know, I'm not embarrassed.
You're not
And,
embarrassed?
you know, no. And one definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results.
Right.
Yet we continue to just spend and spend and spend and spend. And then, you know, prices go through the roof. And then we have all this economic misery.
Right.
And we have all these people who, I think it was one of the right on screen there, 69% of the people are pessimistic about the economy, or, you know, how many last one was around that number, 71% were headed in the wrong direction. I
Right.
think Republicans, House Republicans specifically, are putting America on a better path.
So
And
if
so-
you're concerned about the path of our country, of inflation, and actually our wages are going down because of inflation, runaway government spending, sending billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine. If you're concerned about these issues, the next week is going to be critical because the House is going to bring this for a vote, maybe even as soon as next week. Grassfire is going to be having action items for you to take on that. Brian, another issue that we're covering in our morning VIP briefings is Biden's border crisis.
Right. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas went before the Congress this week, and it did not go well for him. He got lambasted. I mean, they were just they did not have a lot of patience for him. He's trying to say that the border is secure. Of course, we know that's not true. Senator Josh Hawley really took him to task on his inability to protect children. And, you know, for all the unaccompanied minors and that have crossed and that are, you know, now in U.S. custody. It's, and the worst part is that Mayorkas has repeatedly tried to blame the Trump administration. And it's the same thing, you know, oh, it's all Trump's fault. Just like with the Obama administration, it was all Bush's fault. It's like at some point you've had this, you know, your own border policies for 2 years. And, you know, you've got record numbers of people coming across. You're not doing a good job keeping track of them. There's crime, there's fentanyl. There's people from all different nations. They're potential terrorists or even known terrorists, people on terror watch lists who've come in. And you've got a guy who's, you know, acting like everything's fine. And thankfully this week you saw a number of congressmen, senators, even representatives say things about, you know, the job performance for him and where we need to go as a nation to secure our border. Because this really is, we're at a crisis point and have been now ever since Joe Biden took office.
You know, this is an issue that Grassfire has been at the forefront of. I can say that since the George Bush administration, when we were actually against most Republicans, and we came out and called this an invasion. That word was very controversial when we did it. We put billboards up all across the country. This is a matter of national security, of our economic security. Actually, it's a matter of our family security because they're rushing millions and millions and millions of dollars of fentanyl across the border, the drug epidemic. This is an absolutely critical issue that's going to get even more critical. So please, VIPs, watch your VIP briefing. If you're not a VIP, please become a VIP and get these updates. Brian, I want to introduce our VIPs to something new today. We're calling the Welcome to the Party Pal Awards. Maybe you can give a little background on that.
Well, we joke about, you know, how many times we've been on top of a story before the mainstream news media kind of got wind of it, or at least was willing to go public with that story. We have something called Edo Bragg Nickfee. It's an acronym for I'm tired of being right and getting no credit for it. And that has kind of evolved into Welcome to the Party Pal, which is from a great scene in the movie Die Hard, where, you know, John McClane, Bruce Willis, is trying to get the police to understand that something nefarious is going on at Nakatomi Plaza. And so finally, he ultimately resorts to throwing a terrorist dead body out the window, and it crashes into a police car that had the officers come and was, you know, to check everything out. They fooled him, made it look like everything was fine. Well, when a dead body crashes through your windshield, of course, it's not fine. The camera cuts to John McClane, Bruce Willis saying, "Welcome to the party, pal." And that's, you know, where we see sometimes that's how we feel when all of a sudden a news story comes out that we've been talking about for a year.
Yes. And we feel like, you know, John McClane, our feet are bloodied. We just had to fight off some nasty terrorists trying to protect American families. We had to throw a dead body out the window to get somebody's attention. And finally, there at the bottom of the hill, who's there, Brian? It's, of course, you wouldn't have known it, but it's the Washington Post.
Washington Post.
Oh, finally, a year late.
Yeah.
An intellectual battle rages. Is the U.S. in a proxy war with Russia? Welcome to the potty, pal.
Yeah. And that's at the bottom. You can see that leaked documents reveal the extent of U.S. involvement in the Ukraine fight. Well, thank you, Washington Post. Welcome to the party, as Steve, you just said, because I went back and looked. The first time we talked about a quote unquote proxy war in Russia or against Russia was April 28th, 2022. It was 51 weeks ago. So we've been talking about it. And, it's nice to see people finally, coming on board and saying, okay, yeah, that's what's happening. But we've told you about this. This is why our mission, our calling is to report truth that empowers you to take action.
It's very, very important what we're doing here, Brian. And we joke about that. We feel like, John McClain and I know a lot of Grassfire team members feel the same way. They're reading the headlines. They're searching the news. They're doing everything they can. And it's just frustrating. Like, will someone finally pay attention to what's going on in the world? Well, because our team members are continuing to pay attention, we're starting to see some action. And even if you look at it on last night, Tucker had on there Bobby Kennedy, who was talking about this same issue. And Tucker was connecting this back to 1968 and the Vietnam War. No one was listening to his father. And now no one's listening now. But here's Tucker putting Bobby Kennedy on there talking about the proxy war. It was
amazing to, just see Tucker and to have him be, you mentioned this before, on the pulse of so many different things. We talked about last week. It was this one-on-one interview, which was really eye-opening with President Trump. Earlier this week, it was with Elon Musk, a billionaire, one of the most interesting men in the world, to get his pulse on, the fight for free speech. That's why he bought Twitter. And now the day that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announces that he's running, Tucker has him on not only to talk about the fact that, he's the first Democrat to declare Robert Kennedy Jr., but to talk about the kind of the similarities between what's going on now with Ukraine and what was happening in Vietnam. And it just points to the kind of impact, I think, that and insight that Tucker Carlson is showing as one of the leading conservative voices in America. We promised a tease on the mantle of Rush Limbaugh. That the idea of a mantle, if you don't know the story, it's from the Old Testament, Elijah and Elisha. And Elijah was one of the great prophets, and he wore his outer coat was the mantle that he always had with him. And it became associated with Elijah actually performing miracles. That mantle was always with him. And as Elijah was taken up into heaven, what drops from the chariot is his mantle. And Elisha, who had been living with him and been walking with him, Elisha catches the mantle. And that's the idea of taking the mantle. Then Elisha takes that mantle and goes right to the Jordan River, puts the mantle in the water, says, "Where's the Lord God of Elijah?" And the water splits. All the other prophets are watching. And everyone realized that Elisha now has the anointing, the mantle of Elijah. That's where we get this idea of a mantle. So, Rush really was a great interpreter for decades of issues. Brian, you can remember the music would come on at 12:04, and we'd hear that music, and we'd be waiting to hear what Rush would have to say about one of the major issues, especially when there's breaking news. And then Rush would have an incredible way of interpreting the events over a 3-hour time window in his radio show. And so it really feels like, in a very real way, that mantle is passing to Tucker Carlson. As you mentioned, he's been on the edge of these issues. It's a different time slot. It's 8 p.m., not 12 noon, but it maybe gives Tucker a little more time to process. We know Tucker's a writer by trade, and he writes out him and his staff write out those monologues, 10, 12, 14 minutes, which is very difficult. And he provides us with an interpretation of what's happening in the news. Right. He's on the leading edge of the biggest stories. And he brings such a unique perspective to it because he is such a great writer. And I think, we talked about this earlier, Steve, that's a mantle that he has taken, but we all have that responsibility of accepting that mantle to fight for life, liberty, and limited government.
Definitely not limited justice.
No.
Limited government.
I guess I was stuck. Truth, justice, and the American way. That's the old Superman line. So
truth, justice, and the American way. So I'm so thankful for our VIPs. If you're watching this on invitation, we need your help. Grassfire has been under attack like never before. 4 times in the last year, we've been shut down by hostile ISPs who won't deliver the emails that you've requested. So we can't even email you on a lot of issues. We want to invite you to become a VIP, to stand with us. You'll be getting these new morning news digests 3 to 5 days a week. I think it's the best compilation of the news from a conservative perspective that you're going to find anywhere. These video updates, 80% off our level 1 fax fires, which if you do one of those a month, it more than pays for the cost of becoming a VIP.
Right.
Faxes to Congress, our new impact portal, which we've added so you can get even a more of a direct impact to your members of Congress. It's an exciting new tool, and we really do need help of you. We need actually about 100 people this month to step up and become a VIP, to stand with Grassfire so we can fight these battles. We're fighting it right now. I'm not going to name the names, but we've been struggling to email about 25% of our team members because of this attack. That makes it hard to get the word out. We need more resources to fight this battle, to expand the team. And so we're inviting you to join with us, become a VIP, stand with Grassfire, help us get the message of life, liberty, and limited government. And you'll also be on the leading edge of the resources that we have to offer you to help expand your impact on this day. So just want to thank you, Brian. This is a great episode. Anything else you want to share before we go?
No, I just think people, if they could understand the importance of standing with us with just $15 a month, and like you were saying, the value of it comes in the faxes and the action portal, because our mission is, again, to report truth so that you can take action. We don't want to carry the water for the Republican Party. We want to carry the water for you. We want to empower you to make your voice heard. And with just, $15 a month, to know that you're standing with us, because, we're trying to have a lot of impact at a low cost for you and for us. Mm-hmm. And the $15 a month goes a long way. And if we could get 100 of our, best friends to sign up and support us on a monthly basis, it would make a world of difference. We'd be able to do more and empower you to do more in Washington, D.C. and beyond.
Well, thanks so much, Brian. And thank you to our team members, our VIPs, and those who are part of the Grassfire team. Invite you to become a VIP. For Brian Connor, this is Steve Elliott, and have a great day.